Needless to say, they're not scoffing now. In just 6 months, President Trump has reasserted American might and influence and reclaimed the mantle of leader of the free world. Fresh off the EU deal, he met today in London with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and it was pretty clear from Starmer's nervous reactions that Trump has all the leverage. Watch.
Will you visit London during the state visit?
I will. I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job. The mayor of London, but a nasty person. I think he's done. He's a friend of mine, right? No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
Now, the president was referring to London's Muslim leftist mayor, Sadiq Khan, who's helped turn one of the great cities of the West into a place that's almost unrecognizable today in certain areas. Trump also took a subtle dig at the UK crackdown on Brits who dare speak against their country's insane open border policies and mass Muslim immigration.
Can you discuss the importance of free speech today?
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about
that.
Again, Starmer seemed pretty uncomfortable there, and that's a good thing. Trump is holding Europe accountable for its weak, woke policies. And with threats like Russia, Iran, and China looming, it couldn't come at a more crucial time. Coming up, we get a state of play breakdown from a top foreign policy expert, and it all starts now. Some are calling the war in Ukraine World War I with drones. We're watching trench lines and high-tech drone strikes unfold in real time, and it's reshaping the battlefield and global strategy in ways we've never seen before. Tonight, we're joined by someone who's been closely tracking the evolution of this conflict and its implications for the United States. Brad Bowman is Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He's also a former Black Hawk pilot and National Security Advisor in the U.S. Senate, and he joins us now. Brad, great to have you back with us. Hey, drone warfare in this Russia-Ukraine conflict, it seems really to be changing the game, and you've written about this, Brad. Is this conflict and what we're seeing there with unmanned aerial vehicles the new reality, the new normal when it comes to warfare and conflict globally?
Thanks for the opportunity to join you, and thanks for the really important question, right? Because it's so important that we understand what's happening on the battlefield in Ukraine so that we can make sure our forces are prepared for what comes next in defending our country. And to answer your question directly, yes, this is a glimpse of the kind of warfare our troops are going to confront in the future. And the more we learn, the more successful our troops will be in accomplishing their missions and returning home to their families. You know, drones come in different forms with different purposes, but what they're essentially doing is they're providing each combatant, each force, increased intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance to be able to see the battlefield and increase strike capabilities. And that's complementing other assets like missiles and artillery and mortars, and making them more deadly. It's making cover and concealment more difficult. It's making it more difficult to mass forces and surprise your opponent because they see what you're doing. They can hit you before you even start. And so it's making all of this more complex. And as the Ukrainians defend their homes against Putin's unprovoked invasion, we need to help them defend themselves because it's in our interest, but we also need to learn as much as possible to ensure our troops are prepared as well.
Yeah, it's almost like a test lab of sorts, this Russia-Ukraine war. I hate to use that terminology, but in terms of the drone factor, for sure. Hey, President Trump is going to now send more Patriot missile batteries to Ukraine. Is that a major game changer in your view, Brad?
For too long, we took things for granted as we were fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan in terms of threats from the air. Well, as we're confronting China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea working together more than ever, and we have to be able to defend ourselves. And we saw the Iranian attack, for example, in El Udeid Air Base, the largest U.S. military air base in the Middle East. And that was, according to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the largest expenditure of Patriot interceptors we've seen in the system's history. And so undoubtedly, we do not have enough. Undoubtedly, we need to produce more. But what's also true is that if we don't provide Ukraine the means of self-defense and more Patriots and Patriot interceptors, that's going to make Russian attacks more effective. You're going to have increased Ukrainian casualties, and it's going to undermine President Trump's leverage as he tries to bring Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table in good faith, something I'm not holding my breath for, especially if we deprive Ukraine of the means of self-defense.
Yeah, speaking of leverage, President Trump has used it in his dealings with NATO, Mark. He's getting NATO. According to him, NATO will fund the army of Ukraine, number one. But number two, Brad, just yesterday, we had this meeting between Trump and European Union officials where he announced that the EU will now be relying on the United States for much more of its oil and gas to the tune of $750 billion, which will decrease European reliance on Russian energy. How big of a game changer was that announcement yesterday with the EU?
I think it's really important for Europe and, frankly, as much of the international community as possible to not be purchasing Russian gas. I mean, that's a big problem right now. We have China purchasing a lot of Russian energy, and that provides revenue to Putin to fuel this largest invasion in Europe since World War II. So we got to make sure Americans and Europeans in particular, are not buying anything from Russia. And we got to use secondary sanctions, in my view, to punish countries like China that are buying Russian oil and helping to fund Putin's war of aggression in Ukraine.
Last question. Any end game in sight to this Russia-Ukraine war? President Trump obviously has given Vladimir Putin a deadline, which is ticking away now. Is there an end game in sight? How could this thing potentially end?
What is certain is if we deprive Ukraine of the means of self-defense, we will get a solution and it'll be a disaster. And this could become President Trump's Kabul or Saigon. And we don't want that. We want to protect American interests there. And we can do it. It's affordable. I mean, if you combine all of the weapons that we've given Ukraine or committed to Ukraine since the beginning of Putin's latest aggression, it's less than 3% of what we spent on the Pentagon. We can afford this and sustain it forever. Putin can't. That's the beginning of understanding. And with this new deal that Trump has negotiated, where Europeans are helping to pay for American weapons to Ukraine, it makes it even more sustainable and even more of a no-brainer that we should help Ukraine defend its home and brutalize the home invader Vladimir Putin so he reconsiders his line of work and doesn't attack our home next.
Brad, great breakdown and well said, folks. Be sure to follow him, FDD.org, on X, across social media. Brad, great breakdown. God bless. We'll see you again soon. And coming up next, an update, a crucial update on the work Samaritan's Purse is doing in hard-hit Central Texas. Yes, folks, they're still struggling with the remnants of that July 4th flooding. See how you can pray for the people of Central Texas next. What have you seen, I guess, in the immediate aftermath of the flooding, Will, and how have things come along over the past few weeks? What is the situation like now on the ground in the Hill Country?
Well, the Hill Country, as you know, was devastated by really a 30-foot wall of water. And it was coming up so quick that people couldn't get out of the way. I talked to one pastor that said it was coming up about a quarter an inch every minute. So within 4 minutes, it had come up an inch. That was covering more ground. And within a few minutes, you know, his house was already underwater. A lot of people were trying to go for higher ground very quickly, but a lot of people couldn't make it. As you reported, over 130 people have passed away, which is unbelievable on how much death that is. And so we're just grateful for an opportunity that we can come along and just pray with people and talk with people during this time of crisis with them and just minister to them and tell them about Jesus Christ. That's what really can change lives. And, you know, because there's nothing I can do about their loss or anything like that. We got Samaritan's Purse there trying to help and to rebuild things, but we can have an opportunity to pray and to speak spiritual things in their life.
Yeah, it's an unprecedented disaster in many ways, and part of that is the number of children that were killed. I think of Camp Mystic, that great Christian summer camp there, dozens of kids, children killed, Will. How do you minister as you're ministering to people affected by the floods? How do you minister in particular, this is a tough one, to the families who've lost children?
It is, and to be honest, I think sometimes we just come alongside with them, and that's what I love about our chaplains. Our chaplains were literally there just a few hours after it had happened. It cleared up early that morning. They were already on their way by that morning. They had heard about it. And we just sit there and we pray with people, we talk with people, but we also sit there and we hold hands with them, we cry with them. We're just there to be beside them and help them walk through this, this situation. And then a day or two later, we had Samaritan's Purse on the ground.
Yeah, and the rapid response team is acting as the hands and feet of Jesus on the ground for sure. Will, tell us a bit more about what you're doing. Of course, you're praying with people, you're interceding with people affected by the floods. Give us a little bit more of what you're doing physically, tangibly on the ground. You guys have been very busy over the past few weeks.
Yeah, we got Samaritan's Purse has been on the ground as well as the Billy Graham Rapid Response chaplains. And we've already started cleaning out houses. We had volunteers show up right away as well. And we started cleaning up homes, just start getting the sheetrock out, tearing out, letting the house start to dry out, try to find some things. We're already trying to go back and help even rebuild. You got to wait a while. You got to wait for the wood to dry in the home and stuff like that before you can start. There's a lot of procedures in that. But once that starts, we can start to rebuild. And so we're just going around trying to clean up people's yards from debris, trees down, other homes that have fallen apart and they're scattered in their house. And but then we just try to start rebuilding their homes. Samaritan's Purse does. And so we're working on that. We greatly appreciate your help and all that you've done to help support this ministry. So thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. And this has been a national tragedy. Will look centralized, obviously, in Central Texas, but this has garnered national attention and for good reason on a lot of levels, as you've laid out. How can we help? How can everyone watching help your efforts on the ground right now in the Texas Hill Country?
Well, I appreciate that. First and foremost, we need prayers. We can use volunteers too. I mean, we could always use more chaplains and things like that because you never know when the next disaster is going to be. It may be here in North Carolina. It could be up in Connecticut. It could be Maine. It could be back in Texas next week. We just don't know. And so here's an opportunity that we can minister, come alongside and just pray with people and talk with people. He said, well, Will, what good does that do? It does a lot. When you're emotionally drained, when you've lost something, when you've lost your property, you don't know what the next thing, just sit there and pray and just say, God, I need your help. And that's what we just try to do with people. So we need volunteers. I'm sure Samaritan's Purse can use some more financial donations to help rebuild these homes. Everything that's given goes straight to the people that need it. And we don't keep any of it for ourselves. We try to put it right to where it's most needed. And we're grateful for all those people that have given and given generously. We're grateful for that.
Yeah, and we're grateful for you, Will. The Billy Graham Rapid Response Team, also Samaritan's Purse, just doing incredible work on the ground. Will, thank you so much for that great update. God bless you. We'll see you again soon. And coming up after the break, we go from one disaster to another in South Africa. Folks, have you heard about this story? What's happening on farms in South Africa? Literally a government-endorsed genocide, some people are calling it. We get the inside story next. You won't want to miss this.